Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple weeks since we've done anything, and really what I've started to do is work on the staircase. So what the very first thing is that I did is I ripped out all this carpet, and with the carpet being out, of course there was a lot of just material that had to be taken up, really dusty, a lot of just the tack, all that needed to be taken down. Now the other thing that I'm going to have to do is there's a small bowl nose on here right now. It's not much. Of course there's nothing there. There's nothing there. They didn't have stringers on. And of course this was just the raw wood. I don't understand why they didn't go all the way over. But I'm not going to put back on stringers. Just because, I mean, this is a condo. It is something that we're going to flip. And although, you know, maybe aesthetically it's kind of correct, but I'm just going to take and put planks on top of this. So I am going to have to rip these. I'll have to measure and rip. So one thing that I did do is I did cut one of these planks, and that worked out really well. So when I come to put it in, now the one thing that I'm going to have to figure out is each one of these planks, they're not, they're kind of cupped. And because they were carpet, you never did see anything. But with this, you kind of do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll show you how this ended up. And as you can see, I mean, it's just not level at all. Although I think if I tack it down there in the back, it'll be fine. But we're going to come out just a little bit because I am going to have a riser in here. But that's going to look pretty good. But one of the things I wanted to show you is the little tool that I actually built to cut these so that they're going to be tight in this area. It is kind of strange. So I actually didn't show how to build this, but it was super simple. So all I did was it was actually all scrap wood that I had, and I just put a little angle on it. Didn't need to be anything much. And then this is just a 1x2. So this is, I don't really know if there's any limits on how thick it is. I just had some of this poplar laminated plywood, and then I had a 1x2. I just kind of, smoothed it around, drilled in, then took a jigsaw and went in. Now the one thing that I did do, I countersunk a bolt here, and I was trying to look for a knob, just some knob that I could use so that it would, get it down pretty tight. And this is actually from a lawnmower. So you can buy these things, you can buy the end pieces, and they're like $52. So you could do that, or I spent like $7 on these knobs. Could have got some wing nuts. But how this actually works is like this. You put it up to one end, and then you will have to kind of watch yourself over on this side because of this gap. But then once you have that, all you're going to do is tighten it down. Make sure that both of them are correct. Because each one of these angles is going to be different. So you just tighten it down, and then you're just going to go out and you're going to draw the line to how this is going to be cut, and then you can cut each one of these and lay them in. Well, this is kind of an interesting, not dilemma, it just shows you how bad this stuff was built. So at least this riser is going to be the right height for this. I don't have to mess with that. I can just put it in. But the other thing is there's only 2 stringers. And then it was held together by, I guess that's okay, but I would have thought there would have been a stringer in the middle. Oh well. I'm going to cut this and then I'll scribe it along here, but I think the rest of them we can just cut the widths and drop them in without a problem. Very, very interesting. It's dirty down there, so I'm going to take and definitely clean that up. But, so because this is not the right height, I'm going to trim this down. All the other ones should be the right height. So let me take and bring this in here. It's pretty darn close, so we'll just kind of move it up there a little bit. But that's going to be pretty darn close along all of those. So we'll just have to trim the sides. So I'm back at the house, and what I'm going to do is, I know there's 7 more rungs. There's actually, okay, it'd be 7, 8, 9, 10. There would be 10 that would go all the way up, more that I'd need to cut. But one is at the very top of the landing, and the other 2 have that very interesting angle to it. So I don't want to cut those yet. Maybe what I'll do, I just don't know, because maybe one of the things that I ended up doing on that very top one is just putting in a bull nose. And I could do that by just taking one of these boards and cutting a bull nose at the right size and then routering it over. So that would be good. The other 2, there's some pretty big landings, and that may be, they're currently now carpeted, but it doesn't look like maybe there's anything underneath them. So I think one of the things I'm going to have to do is just wait until I get there, and maybe I end up taking these back, put a bull nose on it, and then put a little thin piece of red oak veneer on there, because that may be the only way to do it. But I'm going to cut all of these down to the proper width, and then I can stain. I can stain everything, and shoot it with poly. Couple 3, 4 coats with that. Once those are dry, then I can just take them over. Now the ones here, these are already finished. They're the right width, so they're good from that standpoint, or the length. These here, we'll just do all of it. I mean, I'm only cutting off about a foot or 10 inches, so I'll just stain it all, poly it all, cut it off on one side. I think that'll make it a whole lot easier for us to then get it in and be finished. So now that we've got all of those cut, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to end up staining all of these. I am going to cut this, so I'll cut this down, and then we'll just start staining it. Well, we'll clean up first and then we'll start staining. So before I stain this, I started just looking at some YouTube videos, and one of the things that I kept coming across is to open up this grain or to precondition this grain. And so one of the things that I did see is that there's some pre-stained wood conditioner, and that's what I'm going to use. But before that, it's saying, and this is really smooth, but it's saying to go in and sand it down using a 220. I've got a 240. Since we've got so many planks here, I'm going to use my random orbital and just get all of these things taken care of before we start to stain, or actually pre-stain. And from what I'm hearing is 15 minutes, no longer than 2 hours, and then stain right after that. So you probably noticed me sanded both sides on some of these because I really wasn't quite sure which side I wanted to use. So some of these I just went ahead and just sanded both sides, but I have them all for the tops right now. I did sand one extra board here. This is where we're gonna do our testing at. And I'm just gonna go ahead and I was going to try to find a place. I guess I can lean them up over here, but I'm going to take the pre-stain and we'll put the pre-stain on and we'll let that sit for 15 minutes and then we'll do the other stuff. Okay, so the very first coat of this is on. I was going to go back through and take and dry it, see if there was any extra, but it's not. But one thing that it did do is, boy, it lifted the grain. So they said after it dries about 15 minutes, then take and sand it once again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll let that dry a little bit more. These over here have dried, but look how the grain is. The grain's lifted up. So we'll do we'll do a clean 240 pad and then hit those all again. And then soon after that, we'll be able to start doing the stain. Now we've got all the planks treated and they've been sanded once more. They're really looking good. However, this is not the color because that's what we're trying to achieve right there. So the next thing to do is to go ahead and start prepping to do all of the stain. And I think what I'm gonna do is put the stain on, wipe it off, and then let it dry. We're not gonna do anything else with it. I'm not gonna let it sit on very long, but we'll just get it on, get it off. And then if I need to go darker, we'll just get darker and darker. I'm bringing the boss out here because normally when I do some of these things, if it didn't look right, she's gonna tell me right off the bat so that I don't get in trouble. It's always a good thing. Don't get yourself in trouble. I'm just gonna put this on with paper towel. I actually think we have a match. Maybe another shape, but look at it over here.
Which one is it? This?
Well,
That's brown. This is gray.
yeah. Look at this. Look at this here.
Yeah.
That's got more. I think this is red wood. I mean red oak. But I think and that probably has more red in the oak. But I think we just let it kind of darken a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. It still looks like there's tinge of red. So if you look at that, I mean, there is a difference. That's red, that's not, because I think this is kind of like a burnt old kind of thing. But that's with 2 coats. Actually, when you start looking at that, with only 1, now that could dry, we'll take a look at that. But with 1 coat, that kind of looks a whole lot closer. So that could be a good one. But you know, you come over here from the light here, this looks red. And I mean, I guess some planks are better than others. Like this one here is probably all red. Like I said, some are better than others. But I also wonder what it's going to look like after we put on some polyurethane. That may darken it a little, but you know, that's going to be, the steps are dark. So we'll see. We're going to let these things dry overnight, and then we'll check to see if we can darken them up if they need to be darkened. I'll probably take some poly and put this on tomorrow, see what that turns out like. I was going to take a look. Let's see what the directions say as it pertains to a second coat. You're going to let it sit 5 to 10, 15 minutes. And I'm not seeing anything else, but we'll let it dry, and then we'll see if we can do something with it tomorrow. Got some really good wood here. Not quite sure what we can use it for. I do know I'm going to use some bullnose kind of pieces with it, but there's some nice stuff. We can put some really, really nice things out in the barn. But got a lot of extra wood, and I think that's it for today. We'll get back out here tomorrow. Once we get all of this dry, we'll take a look at it again, and I will probably just shoot it with polyurethane, and as much polyurethane as I can. Well, you know, we'll just keep shooting coat after coat. I think I at least want to get 3 coats, but the more coats, the more durable. So with dogs running up and down, that could be great. Thanks a lot. We will catch you on the flip side. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on those post notifications, and hit that thumbs up if you like the content. Thanks a lot.